Indianapolis is twice as nice this time around. Mother Nature spoiled our first attempt here at Lucas Oil Raceway, but we're ready for the Shore Lunch 200 for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. Hello, everybody. I am Bob Diller, Jim Trado alongside, and this is the conclusion for the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge. And man, did the championship picture change in our last race at Salem Speedway in Indiana. What do you make of all of this?
The top three positions change. Sheldon Creed now emerges with the lead heading into our final race. The biggest factor, only 10 of the 11 races in the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge count, so the worst finish will drop off. The best finishes say Chase Purdy has an outside chance. If Sheldon Creed or Zane Smith win tonight, they win the championship.
I can tell you one thing, it's going to be very exciting in the shadows of Indianapolis. Right now, let's go downstairs to Charles Crawl.
Well, guys, there are a million scenarios in play for the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge. Sheldon, I know there is one for sure. You win the race, you win that Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge championship. You feeling any pressure tonight?
I wouldn't say pressure because we're looking pretty good in points, but pressure to win for sure. We were good in practice, top of the board, qualified third, so I feel like we have a good race car. A little loose in qualifying, but overall really excited for tonight.
So if you're not in the lead, where we know if you win, you're going to be guaranteed to win. If you're not in the lead, how much do you want to know where your competition is tonight?
Well, I just want to win. That's all I want to do. So that's going to be our main goal. I think we have to save a little bit of tires, but our long run stuff was pretty decent in practice. So just going to do our best. We want to lead laps tonight, and I don't know if the rain comes. Hopefully we're leading when it does. So just going to race the track, race whoever's around us, and see where it plays out.
Well, guys, he has got that Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge championship in his sights, and he also could lock up that overall ARCA Racing Series championship with a good finish here this evening.
Sheldon Creed will start third in tonight's Shore Lunch 200. Let's take a look at where we've been on the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge. It all began in Tennessee. Zane Smith scoring victory number one, and then Christian Eckes got on the board as well.
But there's a lot of Zane Smith in the early part of the season to watch, and Sheldon Creed showed his strength at Iowa Speedway round 5.
Gus Dean able to get the win in Elko, Minnesota. Joe Graff Jr. showed he has some short track prowess as well.
Dirt ace Logan Seavey surprised all by winning in just his second ARCA Racing Series start. And Chandler Smith, man, that kid's on fire. He put it on him at Salem.
The final round of the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge comes tonight at Lucas Oil Raceway in the shadows of Indianapolis, just about 20 minutes down the road. Let's take a look at the standings for the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge coming into this one. Sheldon Creed, by virtue of everything happened with a penalty to Zane Smith, is now your leader.
Yeah, each of the top 3 points are their worst finish of 18, so if they improve on that, their points will actually get better, and they'll get seated better. So we're going to try to monitor that all night long. Sheldon Creed has that advantage, but again, it's the best 10 of 11 finishes, this being the 11th race that counts.
Jim's got his pencil and his eraser ready to go to do all the math here tonight. A very blustery day, and there is a chance of rain here tonight at Lucas Oil Raceway. And this place, this town, it rocks because it's all about racing here in this part of the country. This area right here, just about 17 miles outside of Indianapolis, and this racetrack, very racy. 12 degrees of banking in the corner, a half-mile oval, but there's a $10 million plus renovation improvement project right now going on at Lucas Oil Raceway.
And this racetrack provides 1, 2, and 3 group racing starting in the middle, then you go up, then you go down. It's a very unique surface. A lot of teams looking forward to racing here tonight for 200 laps.
Back in 1971 is when ARCA first came here to Lucas Oil Raceway, then known as Indianapolis Raceway Park.
Yeah, the great thing about it is the history and tradition here dating back to Jeff Gordon's origins on Thursday Night Thunder on through some great, memorable stock car events. Right next door, the big daddy of them all, the NHRA top fuel cars go down the track at 330 plus miles an hour in the U.S. National. It's a great venue.
The fans enjoying the hillside in turn number 1, but now it's time for the most important words in racing.
Most famous words in motorsports is Tracy Hutchison of Showlands. Tracy? Drivers, start your engines.
The engines come to life here for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. Christian Eckes and that JBL team will lead the field to the green flag here at Lucas Oil Raceway. It's the Shore Lunch 200 next outside of Indianapolis.
The ARCA Racing Series, presented by Menards, is brought to you by Menards. Save big money at Menards. Hers, forever good. And by Shore Lunch Soups and Breadings, available at Menards.
Just as we were about to go green flag here, the rains came down. Mother Nature reared her ugly head. So after an hour-and-a-half rain delay, we're getting ready to get cars back out on the racetrack. You see all of them pulling back out right now. And we knew there was a chance of rain here, but it really came down in a ferocious way, Jim.
And it did keep some on their toes all day, saying, how many practice laps can we get in? We got that in. How many qualifying laps can we get in? We got that in. But then the skies started to change, and things started to change, and we watched the flags move directions, and in came the rain in a big hurry, in a big way.
This place was soaked, but now the track is dry once again, and competitors are ready to do some green flag racing. Remember, this race was rained out initially in September, and now we're here in October. This place, though, is so important to ARCA, especially because of the heritage of this area. And if you take a look at some of the former winners of this race, some pretty big names right there. Dalton Sargent in the Truck Series this year, Chase Briscoe in the Xfinity Series, Brandon Jones also in NASCAR's Big 3 Series.
And Ty Dillon used the ARCA Racing Series platform to move into NASCAR. He won here in his championship season in 2011.
Travis Braden, one of the Scott Rookie of the Year challengers, won in his first start back in 2015. Who will get the checkered flag tonight? That's the big question. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for this 200-lap race here for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. And on the front row, a guy that's won 2 times already this year, Christian Eckes, with the young gun, Carson Hocevar.
Just 17 years of age and 15 years of age sprinkled in with these drivers who raced the entire season. Caden Honeycutt, another 15-year-old out of Texas in the 43, starts 5th.
Riley Herbst, 3rd in points. Zane Smith, starting 7th, is 2nd in the point standings. Sam Mayer, Gus Dean right there in row number 5 to complete the top 10.
Michael Self finished 2nd here last year. It's his only start at this racetrack, so let's see how Self can rebound and try to win the last race. He lost it with 10 to go.
A good field of cars here. Tom Hessert makes his return to the series, only his 2nd start this season.
Yeah, the veterans certainly paced practice early. The youngsters then caught on quickly and posted some really fast times as the practice session wore on earlier today.
Nice to see multi-time Daytona winner Bobby Gerhart with us as well. A lot of these guys looking for a good run. As we're getting closer to the end of the season, just one more race to go on the ARCA schedule after this one.
Yep, Scott Melton is the last minute entry here for Kimmel Racing, his teammate now for Will Kimmel and Bill Kimmel. So good to see him in the field as well in a 68.
The General Tire onboard camera with Sheldon Creed. He's the points leader both in the overall standings as well as the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge. How about your keys to the race in this one, Jim?
You know, as flat as this track is, they can really burn the right front tire off very quickly. I think it's a matter coming down to timing. We saw how Travis Braden used a different strategy in 2015 to make sure it worked because there was a long period of green that left a lot of cars on the racetrack. And Travis told me, and I think it's very important, turning on the bottom. We don't run the bottom much, but if you need to get to by somebody, you have to be able to get down below them, past them, and exit off the corner cleanly.
Time to go green flag racing here with the ARCA Series at Lucas Oil Raceway in Indianapolis.
Christian Eckes of that number 15 machine, Bob, he set a brand new track record in General Tire Pole qualifying, was able to choose the line he wanted to run, pick the outside, had a great jump on that 15-year-old Carson Hocevar.
Caden Honeycutt in the 43 made his first ARCA start just a few weeks back at Salem Speedway and impressed a lot of people. Now, early in this one, running in the 6th spot. But he has one of the brightest stars, future stars of our sport right behind him in that Craftsman number 20, Chandler Smith.
Smith is coming off a race win that's been probably the most dominant race I've seen in the last 5 years in the ARCA Racing Series. And the High Banks of Salem, Indiana, he led all but one lap to win his 2nd race of the season. This kid already has a bunch of laps led, looking to get forward. I'm surprised he qualified this far back in this field.
7 starts this year for Chandler Smith, all of them top 10 finishes. Christian Eckes, though, we knew that once he got a win, he would win some more. 2 wins already this year. This kid, highly touted, one of those TRD development drivers. A lot of people have their eyes on both Chandler Smith and Christian Eckes.
Yeah, they're in that Toyota stream of getting those drivers opportunities. This is the last time you'll see him in the ARCA Racing Series in 2018, but Christian has a couple more races left for Kyle Busch Motorsports, and the trucks come Martinsville and at Phoenix.
And the good thing for us, Christian Eckes, with the age requirements in the NASCAR Series, he'll be back with us in 2019, as will Chandler Smith.
Great thing is those drivers have experience. Christian's been around since 15, and I'm telling you, it's really helped him when he comes to tracks more than once. We only run 2 tracks a year the same. I mean, that's it. There's 18 different tracks in a 20-race schedule in the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards.
There's Honeycutt and Chandler Smith. Chase Purdy, the number 8 out of Mississippi. Chase Purdy, a lot has changed with him. He feels a lot more relaxed at this part of the season. He's got 6 top 5 finishes in his last 9 races and a big win. He hadn't won in any form of racing for the last 2 years prior to an August race in Kaukauna, Wisconsin, the ARCA Midwest Tour Super Late Model Show with the Dixieland 250, and he feels like he's got his pep back in his step.
I was at that race, Bob, and to see how he was able to control the race from second position, how that works when the leader wants to get out, and there's only a 6-tire race, so he really had to maintain and manage. He took the lead when he could and had a better car at the finish. It was a huge win. He almost had a win here in the ARCA Racing Series at Elko Speedway as well. So there's a lot of close calls for that number 8 machine and Chase Purdy in his first full season here in the ARCA Racing Series.
The top competitors in this race just went by Mike Basham. Mike Basham in that number 34, running 13th in the standings coming into this one of the independent runners here in the ARCA Racing Series.
He's raced in the last 2 ARCA Racing Series races, and Sheldon Creed right on board with him. The point leader, he's done really nothing wrong, but minus 2 opportunities to finish outside the top 10. You talk about racing good, racing fast. Last year, he raced here at Lucas Oil Raceway, led twice for 25 laps, and indeed was a guy that said, you know what, I learned something here. I gave up too much too early. I raced too hard, but now he's got a chance at second spot and chasing down a race leader.
Incredible consistency for Sheldon Creed this year. You mentioned those 2 finishes outside the top 10. Goes along with his 3 victories as well. He showed he's got a lot of prowess, especially on the bigger racetracks. Take a look at this onboard camera and watch how gentle Christian Eckes is with that wheel.
And the gas pedal, we hear the throttle as well, picking up nice and easy off the corner. Great job thus far by a really good handling fast race car out front.
Just 10 laps into this 200-lap race for the Short Lunch 200 at Lucas Oil Raceway. We'll be right back. Clicking off laps here in the Short Lunch 200 for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards at Lucas Oil Raceway. The second time we've been here. The first time back in September, we were rained out. We had a little rain delay earlier today, but Christian Eckes not letting Mother Nature rain on his parade. He is the dominator early in this one.
And you know what? He was excited all day. And when it was the command to say, hey, guys, drivers, get to your cars after that rain delay, he was up and down dancing and jumping around and couldn't wait to get back in his race car. Now we know why. It's that good.
Well, he's got those JBL headsets on that he's listening to and all that music all the time. He points that out to me just a time or two when we see him at the airport. That guy right there, the 35, very impressive 15-year-old Carson Hocevar. Riley Herbst now going after him. Riley is a driver for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Riley Herbst has also tasted NASCAR Xfinity Series and NASCAR Truck Series runs this year for Joe Gibbs Racing and Kyle Busch Motorsports. Getting a win here, I think, would be big. A big surprise for me this year, Herbst has not won a race yet. This could be the night. He's got a lot of confidence heading into what they've done with the chassis throughout the last half of this season.
Riley, his best finish, second twice this year. Carson Hocevar actually ran this racetrack 1 week ago in a Pro Late model and finished second. So he's got that experience here at this racetrack. He's ran here on several different occasions, but in a different form of race car.
Yeah, 3 times last year, he said at one point had a straightaway lead, so he knows how to get in that rhythm, that routine. And as I mentioned before, there's a long period of green, inevitably it seems like, in one of these races. You got to stay on pace. You can't let those tires wear off. You can't push it too hard. So Herbst chasing down Hocevar might be pressuring that youngster into making perhaps some faster, more aggressive moves than he'd like to do right now to save those general tires.
Christian Eckes holding on in the number 15 for Venturini Motorsports. Kevin Reed, the crew chief. A little bit further back, that battle continues, honestly, with Caden Honeycutt, the dirt modified kid out of the Lone Star State of Texas. And this is the battle for 6th on the racetrack. And when we talked to Caden there at Salem, that kid has a lot of bravado.
And you know what? He's got a lot of help around him. He's got Chris Busher helping him with his modified and really getting things right. This is the car that was put together last year by Cunningham Motorsports, now Chad Bryant Racing, that Ty Majeski drove so well last year at the end of the year. This is a really good piece, and Michael Harper's involved, and they've got Jeff McClure, a crew chief on the box who won both races last year at Salem as the crew chief for Christopher Bell. So recent knowledge, how to set these cars up. Give that kid the keys. Let's see how he does. He's done well thus far in his second start. Good at Salem, not the greatest finish, but he's running really strong here to prove he belongs in the top 10 at the tender age of 15.
Chandler Smith trying to get to the top of the heap here today, and that's where he's been so much this year in his inaugural season. And he is our Valvoline lap leader coming into this race by a large margin, honestly, in a part-time schedule over Sheldon Creed.
Yeah, so Christian Eckes is actually adding to that 250 lap total. This is as we were looking at coming into this race. But the amount of races he's run compared to Sheldon Creed, the full-timer, it's amazing he's been able to lead that many laps, compounding the 199 out of 200 at Salem. That really pushed him ahead of everybody else, almost out of reach.
And if you take a look at even Salem, the first time we were there, he cut a tire, right front tire, on the last lap of that race while he was challenging for another victory. So Chandler Smith has 2 wins, but honestly, that win column could have gone up by a couple of more with how good he's run this year.
Yeah, he's led in 7 of 8 races. The only time he has not led is at Iowa Speedway, the biggest track that we would consider in the short track pavement portion because the dirt miles also count. So getting used to that speedway, he did not lead a lap, but every other racetrack, he's been up front.
And he's coming off of a good run in Pensacola, Florida, Five Flag Speedway with his super late model. A couple of weeks ago, he finished 2nd in the Blizzard Series down there in the Panhandle of Florida. Now, he says honestly, and this is really unique, a lot of times when people come from late models and they go over to the world of stock car racing here in ARCA, they say it's a difficult transition. Chandler Smith is a different bird. He says these cars are honestly easier to drive than his super late model.
There's a number of factors that go into that comfortability. This kid's now just 16 years of age. He's been racing super late models for 4 full seasons, not necessarily for points anywhere, but bigger, longer races. Super late models aren't generally built for 200-lap races, but he's been able to do that in a well-crafted run with Ricky Turner kind of managing what he does where he goes, just like Ricky did with Chase Elliott, chasing big races at Short Tracks North America.
In fact, Chandler won Speedfest down in Cordele, Georgia to open the season in January. Back on board with the Valvoline camera, and you could see how good he is with the throttle. He might be just 16 years old, but he's almost got the savviness of a veteran.
Yeah, and of the several teams that tested here, he was among them, as was his teammate Michael Self, is closing in on this battle as well. Self started back in the 11th position. He's now right behind this machine, so the inside line getting a little bit of an advantage here. Uncharacteristic, if you will, and Self there now battling with Harrison Burton for position as they pair up here in the back half of the top 10.
And Smith, much like his teammate there, Michael Self, both with 2 victories this year. Harrison Burton with 1 win to his credit at Pocono. So a lot of victories there in the ARCA world this year that Caden Honeycutt is trying to battle.
And Caden was actually supposed to race here in September as his debut. Then that rained out, and he got a call from Chris Busher, the ARCA champ, now a NASCAR Cup Series driver. He said, "We'll get your butt to Salem." He said, "I've never been there." He said, "Exactly. Get to Salem. Get some laps in." Then they came back here for race number 2. Again, the kid's been impressive in the 43.
There is Bobby Gerhart, that Lucas Oil machine, the number 5. Some of the faster cars working their way by that number 5 machine. Gerhart hasn't run much this year, but usually when we get him on a super speedway, he is always good.
Yeah, Bobby's raced here the last 7 times the ARCA Racing Series, has raced at Lucas Oil Raceway, finishes 11th and 12th the last couple times, but right now Bobby's car appears to be only able to handle the outer groove here. That's why the others move down and behind around him. So Bobby, again, maintaining pace, perhaps hoping for a caution here to get that number 5 Lucas Oil Chevy adjusted.
Christian Eckes now at lap 31. way ahead of the field. He is dominating this race, and he and Kevin Reed really just hit on all 8 cylinders. They know each other pretty well after running with each other now on a part-time basis this year. And he said Kevin Reed, that is so impressed with the feedback from Christian Eckes.
And Eckes is one of those drivers that they put in the fold, the number 15 team this year, running full-time with Kevin Reed as the crew chief. They've already got 5 wins this year. Eckes already has one of those victories among 3 drivers.
Closing in on lap 50 here. Still plenty of racing to go for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards at Lucas Oil Raceway. Clicking off laps here in the Shore Lunch 200 for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards at Lucas Oil Raceway. The second time we've been here. The first time back in September, we were rained out. We had a little rain delay earlier today, but Christian Eckes not letting Mother Nature rain on his parade. He is the dominator early in this one.
And you know what? He was excited all day. And when it was the command to say, hey, guys, drivers, get to your cars after that rain delay, he was up and down dancing and jumping around and couldn't wait to get back in his race car. Now we know why. It's that good.
Well, he's got those JBL headsets on that he's listening to and all that music all the time. He points it out to me just a time or two when we see him at the airport. That guy right there, the 35, a very impressive 15-year-old Carson Hocevar. Riley Herbst now going after him. Riley is a driver for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Riley Herbst has also tasted NASCAR Xfinity Series and NASCAR Truck Series runs this year for Joe Gibbs Racing and Cowbush Motorsports. Getting a win here, I think, would be big. A big surprise for me this year, Herbst has not won a race yet. This could be the night. He's got a lot of confidence heading into what they've done with the chassis throughout the last half of this season.
Riley, his best finish, second twice this year. Carson Hocevar actually ran this racetrack 1 week ago in a Pro Late model and finished second. So he's got that experience here at this racetrack. He's ran here on several different occasions, but in a different form of race car.
Yeah, 3 times last year, he said at one point had a straightaway lead, so he knows how to get in that rhythm, that routine. And as I mentioned before, there's a long period of green, inevitably it seems like, in one of these races. You got to stay on pace. You can't let those tires wear off. You can't push it too hard. So Herbst chasing down Hocevar might be pressuring that youngster into making perhaps some faster, more aggressive moves than he'd like to do right now to save those general tires.
Christian Eckes holding on in the number 15 for Venturini Motorsports. Kevin Reed, the crew chief. A little bit further back, that battle continues, honestly, with Caden Honeycutt, the dirt modified kid out of the Lone Star State of Texas. And this is the battle for 6th on the racetrack. And when we talked to Caden there at Salem, that kid has a lot of bravado.
And you know what? He's got a lot of help around him. He's got Chris Buscher helping him with his modified and really getting things right. This is the car that was put together last year by Cunningham Motorsports, now Chad Bryant Racing, that Ty Majeski drove so well last year at the end of the year. This is a really good piece, and Michael Harper's involved, and they've got Jeff McClure, a crew chief on the box who won both races last year at Salem as the crew chief for Christopher Bell. So recent knowledge, how to set these cars up. Give that kid the keys. Let's see how he does. He's done well thus far in his second start. Good at Salem, not the greatest finish, but he's running really strong here to prove he belongs in the top 10 at the tender age of 15. Chandler
Smith trying to get to the top of the heap here today, and that's where he's been so much this year in his inaugural season. And he is our Valvoline lap leader coming into this race by a large margin, honestly, in a part-time schedule over Sheldon Creed.
Yeah, so Christian Eckes is actually adding to that 250 lap total. This is as we were looking at coming into this race. But the amount of races he's run compared to Sheldon Creed, the full-timer, it's amazing he's been able to lead that many laps, compounding the 199 out of 200 at Salem. That really pushed him ahead of everybody else, almost out of reach.
And if you take a look at even Salem, the first time we were there, he cut a tire, right front tire, on the last lap of that race while he was challenging for another victory. So Chandler Smith has 2 wins, but honestly, that win column could have gone up by a couple of more with how good he's run this year.
Yeah, he's led in 7 of 8 races. The only time he has not led is at Iowa Speedway, the biggest track that we would consider in the short track pavement portion because the dirt miles also count. So getting used to that speedway, he did not lead a lap, but every other racetrack, he's been up front.
And he's coming off of a good run in Pensacola, Florida, at Five Flags Speedway with his super late model. A couple of weeks ago, he finished second in the Blizzard Series down there in the Panhandle of Florida. Now, he says honestly, and this is really unique, a lot of times when people come from late models and they go over to the world of stock car racing here in ARCA, they say it's a difficult transition. Chandler Smith is a different bird. He says these cars are honestly easier to drive than his super late model.
There's a number of factors that go into that. Comfortability. This kid's now just 16 years of age. He's been racing super late models for 4 full seasons. Not necessarily for points anywhere, but bigger, longer races. Super late models aren't generally built for 200-lap races, but he's been able to do that in a well-crafted run with Ricky Turner kind of managing what he does where he goes, just like Ricky did with Chase Elliott, chasing big races at Short Tracks North America.
In fact, Chandler won Speedfest down in Cordele, Georgia to open the season in January. Back on board with the Valvoline camera, and you could see how good he is with the throttle. He might be just 16 years old, but he's almost got the savviness of a veteran.
Yeah, and of the several teams that tested here, he was among them, as was his teammate Michael Self, is closing in on this battle as well. Self started back in the 11th position. He's now right behind this machine, so the inside line getting a little bit of an advantage here. Uncharacteristic, if you will, and Self they're now battling with Harrison Burton for position as they pair up here in the back half of the top 10.
And Smith, much like his teammate there, Michael Self, both with 2 victories this year. Harrison Burton with 1 win to his credit at Pocono, so a lot of victories there in the ARCA world this year that Caden Honeycutt is trying to battle.
And Caden was actually supposed to race here in September as his debut, then that rained out, and he got a call from Chris Buescher, the ARCA champ, now a NASCAR Cup Series driver. He said, we'll get you butt to Salem. He said, I've never been there. He said, exactly, get to Salem, get some laps in. Then they came back here for race number 2. Again, the kid's been impressive in the 43.
There is Bobby Gerhart, that Lucas Oil machine, the number 5. Some of the faster cars working their way by that number 5 machine. Gerhart hasn't run much this year, but usually when we get him on a super speedway, he is always good.
Yeah, Bobby's raced here the last 7 times the ARCA Racing Series, has raced at Lucas Oil Raceway, finishes 11th and 12th the last couple times, but right now Bobby's car appears to be only able to handle the outer groove here. That's why the others move down and behind around him. So Bobby, again, maintaining pace, perhaps hoping for a caution here to get that number 5 Lucas Oil Chevy adjusted.
Christian Eckes now at lap 31. Way ahead of the field. He is dominating this race, and he and Kevin Reed really just hit on all 8 cylinders. They know each other pretty well after running with each other now on a part-time basis this year, and he said Kevin Reed, that is so impressed with the feedback from Christian Eckes.
And Eckes is one of those drivers that they put in the fold, the number 15 team this year, running full-time with Kevin Reed as the crew chief. They've already got 5 wins this year. Eckes already has one of those victories among 3 drivers.
Closing in on lap 50 here. Still plenty of racing to go for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards at Lucas Oil Raceway. Welcome back to Lucas Oil Raceway for the Short Lunch 200 for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. We're under caution. Debris on the racetrack is the culprit for this one. Christian Eckes is still your leader.
And Bob, there's a lot of chatter on these radios. Do we want to pit or not? Eckes has put on a really strong, hard pace. Some of these teams are considering pitting this early in the race, which I can say is too early because you only have 6 tires in the pits.
I agree with you, unless you're a little bit further back in the field, and then maybe you want to come in, make some changes, get those tires. Christian Eckes playing the track position strategy right now. But Zane Smith, second in the series point standings. He was outside the top 10, and he comes down pit road. It looks like it's going to be a major chassis adjustment and some tires for Zane Smith, possibly some tires. They're holding that right rear, so maybe just some chassis adjustments.
Yeah, I can see them working away. It looks like the rear spring, maybe they want to get a spring rubber out of there or make an adjustment to the shock and how it sits in that right rear. Zane Smith on pit road here for a long time. They did a number of pit stops at the dirt track at DuQuoin and still finished top 10, so this may be a reason for saying, you know what, as long as we don't lose a lap, guys, let's get that repair done. Keep it aware where the pace car is. Zane Smith is going to give up that track position to get some fresh tires potentially on this car before going back out.
And a big penalty after Salem for some on-track activity for Zane Smith. He was the leader of the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge, but with that penalty, he relinquished that lead.
And it was a big blow. He actually had an incident with fellow driver Michael Self on the racetrack. The car was repaired. Zane Smith went back on the track, and it appeared, with all intent, to take out Self for no other purpose to get that car back on the track. And a big fine and big points deficit for him.
He remained second in the overall standings. There you see the big lead now by virtue of that points penalty Sheldon Creed has on the rest of the field. We expect when he goes into Kansas, he will be crowned the champion in a couple of weeks.
These are the overall points. I'm keeping an eye on Chase Purdy, 4th and 5th in points with Braden. Only 5 points separate them at this late point in the season for the championship run.
You know, it's been a battle between 2 of the giant teams, Venturini Motorsports and MDM Motorsports. And right now, MDM with just a slight advantage on the season.
But this graphic shows the importance of getting together and getting the right system, getting the right program. 9 wins this year for MDM Motorsports with their drivers set up. Venturini Motorsports have brought in the young talents of Toyota backing and Toyota involvement. 10 different drivers have competed this year for Venturini Motorsports. 7 pole positions. Eckes with his second this season tonight. I'd say he's got a really good chance because Kevin Reed's done so much to get that team back in the fold with how strong MDM started 2018.
And Ron Drager addressing the drivers and the teams at the drivers meeting this morning. They're close to announcing the schedule, but he said it'll be much of the same of what we saw this year, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 changes on that 20-race schedule.
And they're planning every day what's going to happen when, as NASCAR purchased ARCA, what's going to progress, what will be the schedule makeup, how will this affect the drivers on both East and West Coast racing the K&N platform and the ARCA Racing Series. Things are coming to form, and it's really exciting knowing how many people are interested in seeing how the drivers develop, and this is a great level to do that at before moving on to racing the NASCAR National Series.
A lot of little battles within battles in the ARCA Racing Series, and one of them, the General Tire Pole Award battle. Today, Christian Eckes setting fast time. He gets the General Tire Pole Award here. That's Billy Venturini, the team owner, and then Kevin Reed, his crew chief, standing with Christian Eckes. But you see, it's a deadlock at top of the standings. Chandler Smith and Sheldon Creed both with 4 pole awards.
With 1 race to go in the season, it's on a super speedway. Chandler's too young to race it, so he won't have a chance to try to beat Sheldon. They've made a tiebreaker rule. Sheldon Creed has won the General Tire Pole Award for the season because Chandler won't be able to compete for it at Kansas Speedway, so the tiebreaker goes to Sheldon. He's pocketed the General Tire Pole Award for the year already.
Sheldon Creed in that number 28, a fine season for him indeed. Now trying to go after another short track win. He lines up second on the restart with Eckes leading the field to green.
Creed on the bottom is making an effort there. Look at him run to the bottom, but also move all the way up the racetrack. He knows there's 2 lanes up there, but the surface is darker on the very outside. These cars are not all the way to the wall. What would be a cushion on a dirt track is wet asphalt. So what Eckes did, he got out to the lead. What Sheldon Creed did in that second position, move up the racetrack to protect that inside line and try to get that advantage to get that second spot free and clear.
A gaggle of cars right in the middle of this pack is Zane Smith, pitted during this most recent caution, now running in 15th. I see Sam Mayer there in the number 40. Carson Hocevar, 3 wide racing at the top of the field.
And look at his car. He's losing traction because he can't get on the gas sooner. The track is so flat on the bottom here at Lucas Oil Raceway. He'll give up 2 spots in that daring 3-wide move. Didn't pay off this time.
Wow, battle for second right there. And sometimes you see the groove is really at the top side of the racetrack in these corners, but sometimes the drivers go way down on the bottom and use that apron kind of off camber with their left front to turn the cars in the center of the corner.
Early in the race, Sheldon Creed did a masterful slide job, just like what the 35 machine of Hocevar was trying to do. When Creed took over second, it was a quick, swift move to turn 3 to the bottom, came right back up in front of Hocevar and got the position. So that was, again, a play on see how good these General tires are at this point in the race with this little heat built into them just a few laps after restarting.
Chase Purdy wants a victory. We mentioned he won that super late model race, but he wants one over here. Twice a runner-up finisher this year in ARCA competition. Last year he ran the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East Circuit. 5 times a runner-up there. And these big heavy stock cars, he's just itching for a win.
He's up to 4th in points, Bob. I mean, he's got 8 top 5 finishes this year. He's coming off a string of top 10 runs, 3 or 4 in a row. He's gaining on it. He's actually passed now Travis Braden in the points. But again, that Elko victory, that was almost a victory. That ended with the rear end gear seizing and starting a small fire under the car. That ignited the season, but it also showed that Purdy, when he's able to, can dominate a race.
Sheldon Creed, the series point leader, currently running in second here at Lucas Oil Raceway, going after win number 4 on the season. The Shore Lunch 200 for the ARCA Racing Series at Lucas Oil Raceway. Green flag conditions right now. Overall point leader Sheldon Creed running in second. We're on board with him. Nice and smooth with that wheel. Sheldon told me earlier today he just loves this racetrack.
Yeah, he spun the tires on the inside of the restart, got the position though by running pretty high. That's been the difference in this green flag run, Bob. They're running the same groove here. Creed and the number 8 machine of Purdy are teammates, but they have a different setup. They have a different mindset. Crew Chief Jeff Stankiewicz with the 28 machine did not like to test here where the other MDM teams did a few weeks back. Purdy has a different agenda. His crew chief, Mark McFarland, wants to make sure Chase is comfortable. He's taught them how to do that on the bigger tracks. Purdy has excelled as of late on the short tracks here in 2018.
Purdy, 18 years old, has done everything but win here in ARCA, and he is just hungry to be victorious. He pulls to the inside of Sheldon Creed. Will he be able to get that spot? That momentum on the outside may pay dividends for Sheldon Creed.
What I like about this duel is the spotters. The spotters have been the same every race this season for these drivers. Sheldon Creed's spotter has been Lauren Ranier. The spotter number 8 is Chase Purdy's spotter, Joe White, who's been in the series before and for a championship with Chase Briscoe. So I like the idea that giving room and giving experience the matter, because this racing line is so different than any other short track we run. I think that helps these drivers in their ability to stay clean, but also give some room. We saw Sheldon move up and saying, okay, if you want the inside, you got it. But I think my car is better, and he proved it there.
Christian Eckes has led the entire distance so far. You mentioned Lauren Ranier. He's been around him, his dad, you name it, for such a long time around the NASCAR ranks. Now he's one of the top talent scouts in America to find younger drivers.
Yeah, and we're finding it here. We see Toyota placing the number 20 of Chandler Smith in the ARCA Racing Series with Venturini. Lauren Ranier looking at Zane Smith's career and kind of directing Sheldon Creed's as well, and a number of other drivers. Sam Mayer in the field as well, getting a chance with the MDM after turning 15 in late June. Getting these opportunities, Lauren Ranier's been able to work with these teams, educate these young kids, get them in great rides and great opportunities.
Well, Chandler Smith has had an unbelievable season. He's led more laps than any other driver by a large margin. And now, by virtue of that, and you can see as we take a tour around the laps that he's led at many different racetracks this year, he is the Valvoline Lap Leader Award winner. $10,000 prize from the ARCA Racing Series in Valvoline.
Mathematically, no other driver, if they lead a lap or lead the rest of them, will be able to surpass Chandler Smith and what he's able to do this season on the high banks at Salem, winning a race at Madison, Wisconsin. He's done a lot of great things, and those 4 qualifying efforts in his first 4 races is an all-time ARCA record for a driver in their first 4 attempts in the series.
Another ARCA record that he owned for the first 4 starts in his career came this year for General Tire Pole Award. So Chandler Smith really smashing some records here in ARCA this year as a part-time competitor.
Christian Eckes, who at age 15 began his racing career in the ARCA Racing Series. He's won the Snowball Derby by leading just the final lap. He also continues to compete in every possible thing he can get his hands on, but he's not been able to run full-time in the ARCA Racing Series. This is just his 13th start. He knows it's his last chance to win in the ARCA Racing Series because the last race on the schedule, it's at a track where you must be 18 years of age to compete, Kansas Speedway.
Purdy in the Bama Buggies number 8 continues to stalk Sheldon Creed. Creed not giving it up at all, trying to keep his MDM Motorsports teammate at bay.
Purdy may have a better race car right here. He's able to make that move in the middle of 3 and keep it to the front stretch. We'll see if Creed does anything but get back in the gas. That's Creed's way. Creed does not give up a spot. Does not give up probably the parking space in the parking lot at the shop either. He wants the best spot. He always wants to be first.
Oh, trouble on the racetrack. Harrison Burton, that second-generation race car driver, goes around. Caden Honeycutt involved as well. The caution comes out here at Lucas Oil Raceway.
Racing within the top 10, 8th or 9th position in contest there. We see Burton's long streaks of black coming across the racetrack and the car spinning. That nose damage, unfortunately, for Burton in the Morton Buildings Toyota.
Bad break for Harrison Burton. All his starts prior to now, top 10 finishes here in ARCA this year. And Caden Honeycutt for a second straight race. This is only his second start in the series with a little difficulty midway through the race.
And when you see all that smoke, Bob, there's not much you can do. And that's like the furthest point from the lights away. Turn 1, there's a little bit of a dim spot. Add the smoke, add how wide the surface is, where that car was. Harrison was at the fence, and he's trying to keep it up there, but drifted down across to the middle of the racetrack.
Here's what we saw of that incident, and Michael Self just got around those 2 drivers. Harrison Burton having some trouble, and that incident, that little hit there for Caden Honeycutt came as he was trying to stop and avoid that 12 car. Yeah,
those teams have some work to do here. Doesn't look like they will have to put it on the hook and keep it in the infield the whole time, but here come the leaders, Bob. This is a great time to get a pit stop in.
6 tires they have at their disposal. Who will take what? We'll update you when we come back here to Lucas Oil Raceway. Pit Road is a busy place right now. Everybody coming down for their selection of 2 or 4 drivers at Lucas Oil Raceway.
It appears to be 2 tires, Bob. We saw Sheldon Creed jet out from his pit stall halfway down pit road past start finish, and He had a 2-tire stop as crew chief Jeff Stankiewicz making a call to get that car a bit loosened, tight conditions for him, and you saw him racing there next to the number 15 of Christian Eckes, so that battle on the racetrack might be settled here on pit road with Creed maybe having the advantage coming off pit road. We just caught a glimpse out his window with our in-car camera.
The ARCA on board for Riley Herbst has been in the top 10, but not exactly threatening for the lead here so far in this one. Chase Purdy, fourth in the series point standings, but by the way, how about this? Thad Moffitt did not pit in that 46. He is going to be the leader of this race.
Rolling the dice here in just his 5th start. Moffitt will take the lead on the restart on old tires. We'll see how that plays as everyone else that are right behind him on lead lap took 2.
Chandler Smith will line up 3rd on this restart in the Valvoline machine right behind Chase Purdy in that number 8. I love looking at the history and what past winners have done on this racetrack. And Jim, here's a little history of what has shaken down in terms of the last 4 winners at Lucas Oil Raceway.
Dalton Sargent had fresher tires late 1 year ago and took that number 77 to victory lane. The year prior, Chase Briscoe won the championship and started 7th in this race and really didn't look back after he got that lead. Led a ton of laps here. Going back to Travis Brayton, in his first ever ARCA Racing Series start, he started 8th, had a pit strategy where he had fresher tires at the end, gobbled them up, led the final 21 laps. And Brandon Jones, teamed with Frank Kimmel that year in 2014, led from the outset, could really dominate at will, waited till about the last 40 or 50 laps to really put it on him.
So what you're saying basically is that the only driver to dominate in the last 4 times ARCA has run here is Chase Briscoe. By the way, look at that. Thad Moffitt, the first laps he has ever led here in ARCA competition.
He's excited because the Performance Plus Motor Oil team with Empire Racing have bought the assets of Mason Mitchell Motorsports. He said, man, we got a bunch of new Chevys in the shop. We can't wait to see how these cars do, and great to see him up front.
Let's take a look at what happened in the most recent race here in the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. One guy to keep an eye on, and that's a 20 machine for Venturini Motorsports, Chandler Smith.
And Caden Honeycutt had an issue. It cost him a better finish, but again, that driveline issue, had an oil line issue, the 43 machine. There was a throwback weekend, so the 28 of Sheldon Creed had a cool Cale Yarborough, Harry Raniere racing paint job on it. And concerns for a while there. Didn't know if Honeycutt was dropping any oil or not, but that soon went away, and we went back racing.
Trouble right there. Michael Self puts the bumper to the 41 of Zane Smith. Remember that one. Self trying to come through the field, going by the number 32 for Gus Dean in that Baker Distributing race car. But Self would actually get into it a little later on with Zane Smith. Joe Graff Jr. kind of roughing up the side of the 8 of Chase Purdy. He gets the spot there. Lots of just love and war here at Salem Speedway. Indeed, look at this. Joe Graff Jr. hard into the wall late in the going, but the checkered flag came out for Chandler Smith, and a lot of talk about Zane Smith and Michael Self in that one, and then the penalty for Zane Smith. Definitely a lot of emotion for a lot of drivers coming into the show here tonight.
And with the points penalty, it tightened a lot of categories up. Zane in not only the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge, but also in the overall standings. He's now within reach for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in points.
Nice shot there from our Lucas Oil Production Studios cameras. Thad Moffitt is your leader. He's the control car on this restart, the 46 on the outside.
Yeah, Petty Blue for a reason. His grandfather is Richard Petty, son of Rebecca Petty Moffitt. And I don't know how long he'll be there, Bob. Those fresh tires might mean everything right about now on the bottom.
You're completely correct. He's already fallen back to 3rd. But I like listening to how Chandler Smith came through the gears right there, and he's right on the back bumper of Chase Purdy. Can the overall Valvoline lap leader lead some more laps here in ARCA competition this year? He's going for the lead.
We are highlighting 2 of the drivers that have taken the effort to make every race count, whether it be a super late model race or the ARCA Racing Series. For the last couple of seasons, these teenagers have really focused on racing on big races, on big stages. We'll probably see them again in the Snowball Derby, the Winchester 400. We're going to see them a lot racing against each other at their tender ages. The number 8 machine of Chase Purdy, again, just 18 years of age and turning 16 midsummer, is the driver hunting him down on that Craftsman number 20, Chandler Smith.
A little bump there on the straightaway, too, from Chandler Smith to Chase Purdy to say, hey, by the way, I'm there. And I might be a little bit quicker than you. To allude to the fact of those super late model races, I did talk to Chandler Smith today, and he said he's also running the All-American 400. So a lot of big races for both of these guys at the end of the season in super late model racing. Chandler is fast. Another nudge from Chandler Smith in the 20, trying to pull alongside of leader Chase Purdy.
Normally I'm saying, why do you have to hit him to pass him? But right at that point, the right rear is the lightest of the moment in the turn on the corner. The number 8 machine was not back in the gas yet. He had to wait to feather it through there, had to protect position, and Chandler did something really good there. He tapped him saying, if you've got a car strong enough, I'm coming. You do that again, I'm going to maybe tap you harder. This is great short track racing.
And what did they say in Days of Thunder? That was a rub. And son, rubbing is racing. Chandler Smith did not knock him out of the way, just kind of got him to wiggle a little bit, but couldn't make the pass. The 15 of Christian Eckes battling with his Venturini Motorsports teammate, the 55 Sinclair car of Michael Self. Michael told me today he is really trying to put everything together for 2019 to run for the championship here in ARCA.
The number 15 machine led the race, and as he is a Venturini Motorsports teammate to Self, they both want to race as much as they can. And Michael Self's funding comes from Sinclair Oil. Christian Eckes has the ability to work with JBL and other sponsors and tie into Kyle Busch Motorsports for his chances in this series. He also led a bunch of laps early, but he came out 5th on that pit stop exchange, Bob. So we're seeing how they can play, what adjustments those two teammates made.
He's got a great race car. Can he get back to the lead? There's a few people that might have something to say about that. Maybe Chase Purdy, maybe Chandler Smith. Christian Eckes currently in 3rd here after 68 laps at Lucas Oil Raceway. Inching closer to the halfway point in the Shore Lunch 200 for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. We're at Lucas Oil Raceway. Indianapolis is what they like to say here. This place is a fantastic place. The drivers running the outside groove. Chase Purdy leading around this half-mile racetrack.
And the temptation to use this corners as you go down the back straight of it looks to be a bit of a banking, but that banking goes away when you're at speed. Drivers that have just come in here for the first time said, I couldn't believe how much the track just washed away, and I really had to worry about my corner entry in turn 3 because if I didn't get that right, I couldn't get off the turn 4 any better, and I'd be gobbled up by turn 1.
Lap 76 on the racetrack. Sam Mayer battling within the top 10. Mayer, the kid from Wisconsin, really impressing a lot of people. A regular on the Car Store late model stock car circuit. Actually won a late model stock car race this year and is also dabbling in the NASCAR Can-Am East Series as well.
Yeah, he's 6th in points in that car. His late model stock tour, but more importantly, he's getting some seat time. He actually got a chance to test here. He got a chance to race in the Can-Am Pro Series East once he turned 15 years of age. Racing with MDM Motorsports really puts him in a great position to work with a really, really strong cast. And his crew chief today, Robert Huffman. 1 year removed from working in the Camping World Truck Series on Brad Keselowski's team. So that's a lot of experience, not only with MDM, but when Sam races with these guys. Marty Lindley works with him on the East Series stuff. He's really got a lot of potential and great opportunities with some really solid teams.
A lot of great people at MDM Motorsports. But Jim, I'm watching this battle. A great onboard shot right there. Just a ferocious battle between the NOS Energy Drink, number 18 of Riley Herbst, that 40 of Sam Mayer, and here comes Zane Smith almost trying to make it 3 wide off the corner.
And Riley really got a good run last year going into the top 5, but then the window net came down. So we didn't really know what Riley had because he had to pit under green and lost some laps. He still finished top 15, but this is proving the point that he's got a really strong race car with what he brought here this weekend with Booty Barker as the crew chief. Oh boy.
Little slip up there by Riley Herbst. And Zane Smith trying to capitalize. Look at how soft he was with that throttle.
I heard the throttle burp, go. Man, he was really delicate through there, and Zane made the pass work.
Sam Mayer now down on the inside.
Finished top 10 in his ARCA debut. Did Sam Mayer in the number 40 QPS Employment Group Toyota. Looking to see him a lot more on the short tracks next year as well here in ARCA.
A couple of weeks ago, went to New Hampshire Motor Speedway with the NASCAR Can-Am East. Finished in the top 10 there as well. The kid is good. Started out in Legends cars from the Midwest. Your part of the country, and I know he's somebody you're keeping an eye on.
And as good as Sam's been in a go-kart, his dad built him a go-kart track in his yard when he was 3. He spent a lot of his stock car development actually in the Carolinas. He's not raced a bunch back home, but when he does, he goes back with Callie Byers in a really good super late for 4 or 5 races. He is primarily focused on the late model stock tour with Junior Motorsports and getting these big car opportunities.
You know, as we look at Christian Eckes, the interesting part about Sam Mayer, as well as Harrison Burton, both of those guys doing double duty. They were in Delaware at Dover running a Can-Am East race earlier today.
Yeah, both top 5 finishes to round out their season. So getting the chance on those big tracks, I don't think Sam's ever done 2 in one day, though. Harrison said, yeah, I'm pretty tired when he got off the plane to get here in time for practice.
Two teenagers doing well. A lot of experience right there, running 2 races in one day. Battle for the lead right now. Christian Eckes lost all those spots on pit road. A Saturday night easy drive, honestly, for him. He blows by Chase Purdy to the lead. Purdy trying the crossover, not going to be able to do it. A little bumped right there between those two drivers.
Purdy went to the inside thinking if the 15 of Eckes went deep into turn 1, there's a part of no man's land, no return. Eckes was able to manage that corner. Purdy gave a tap as he got by him clean.
Let's take a look if you were right here. The replay on the racetrack. Watch this right here. Wow, that's incredible. That car able to turn underneath Purdy like it was nothing.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is all that speed he had off a turn, it actually started the entry of turn 3. Get tight to the tail, drop to the bottom, just like in a dirt car, and slide up that racetrack. Christian does not have a lot of dirt experience, but he won that race this year at Springfield saying, I don't know what I'm doing. That was a great slide job he just put on the 8 there.
Purdy tried to do the same thing to him in turns 1 and 2 and repay the favor, but his car not cutting as well as Christian Eckes.
And Eckes now has the lead back. He led the first 62 laps of this race. A longer pit stop. They sacrificed track position, no question. Crew chief Kevin Reed going after his 6th win this year, and this team knew the speed was in that car, and they made the right call.
But listen, we still have a long way to go and possibly another round of pit stops. Remember, most of these teams still have 4 tires on pit road. Battle for 7th, that green machine, the number 32 for Gus Dean, a winner in Elko, Minnesota this year. Battling with Zane Smith, who is really doing well after struggling earlier in this race.
And Zane, again, had a pit stop early on under the caution about lap 40 or so. He then came back in with the rest of the leaders. So, again, he's been on pit road twice already, 1 for adjustments, 1 for two tires. With everyone else, he's been on pace with Gus Dean. Gus is actually looking for his first top 15 finish here in 3 starts at Lucas Oil Raceway. So we'll see how Zane can work with this car that has, again, Jamie Jones really improving the overall operation all year for the 32 Wintron Racing effort with Gus Dean behind the wheel.
You talk about the battle for the championship. Zane Smith and Sheldon Creed, they've battled all season long. But the big difference is basically that Sheldon Creed only has 2 bad races. Well, Zane Smith has 5. And those 3 races that he finished more poorly than Sheldon Creed in, those 3 mulligans, if you will, are the difference in the championship.
And when it comes to the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge, again, the worst finish will drop off. Specifically between the 28 machine of Sheldon Creed, his worst finish is 18th at Toledo, and the 41 of Zane Smith, his worst finish came at Salem, finishing 18th there as well. So as they drop off, we have to look ahead to what would be the 2nd worst finish to improve on. 15th at Elko for Creed, 17th at Springfield for Zane Smith.
3 of the last 4 races, top 10 finishes for Gus Dean, the driver out of South Carolina. Somebody to watch for in coming years, as is Christian Eckes in that 15, now starting to catch some slower traffic.
Eckes' pace, again, getting back to where these tires are equal. The right side tires are warm, they're run. They came down pit road about lap 60 or so for the tires. Now we've got 31 laps approaching halfway, and Eckes was able to move from 6th really on the grid through the field methodically, and he's had some dominating performances, Bob.
He has, and honestly, if you think back to Salem last year in the springtime, it was a great run for Christian Eckes. A little strategy, honestly, in this one, because Christian Eckes had an incident early in the race, and by virtue of that incident, he came onto pit road, got some fresh rubber, went through the field like nobody else. I mean, that car was on a rail. Christian Eckes in that 15, everybody said this was going to be his first victory in ARCA Series competition. But late in the race, Dalton Sargent in that 77 came on strong. The 78 of Kyle Weatherman getting by. He was still a lap down at that point. Dalton Sargent able to drive to the victory here in this one. It was a bad break late in the race for Christian Eckes, who had another flat tire.
So you're saying lap 200 we'll know if he wins or not, just in case, because Christian's been dominant before in 4 or 5 or 6 races in just the last 2 seasons.
It's never over till it's over. This car, I don't know if I've seen a car like this year. The 15 just looking that good. But also looking good is that 15-year-old Carson Hocevar. One win this year in the CRA Jegs All-Stars Tour. That's a pro late model circuit, but Carson Hocevar has been really concentrating on super late model racing this year. In fact, he's planning on running the Snowball Derby the first weekend in December.
And he's not racing for points anywhere, Bob. He's got Mike Bursley and the team getting a program together. They want to get seat time. They want to get track time, either test or race at all these big racetracks before they make the run for the big trophies.
Approaching the halfway point in this one. And let's just call him the Dominator, Christian Eckes, leading once again here at Lucas Oil Raceway, 5 laps shy of halfway. Time for the DuPont Protect Plus mid-race recap here for the Shore Lunch 200 at Lucas Oil Raceway for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. Christian Eckes leading Carson Hocevar to the green flag, and he has been very strong throughout this race.
Took the lead and said, see you later. There's some battling going on back half of the top 10. That was Harrison Burton in the 12 and Caden Honeycutt in our only incident on the racetrack with cars causing the caution.
Look at how easy Christian Eckes took the lead once again after the pit stops from Chase Purdy. There have been 3 leaders in this race and 3 cautions as well. 3 seems to be the magic number so far, but the only real incident between Harrison Burton and Honeycutt in that 43. So a pretty clean race so far at this stage of the game. That's the DuPont Protect Plus mid-race recap.
And Burton and Honeycutt have made several pit stops as many times as they could to get back on the racetrack. They want to finish this race. They want to learn something. Harrison Burton just said, I want to race this track. It's so cool. He wants to get a ton of laps in here as he's a full-timer soon to be on the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series.
Eckes leads. Here's a battle for 4th on the racetrack. Sam Mayer trying to get the spot. Michael Self has it in the 55, so Mayer keeps on climbing through the field. And, of course, this is the final round of the 11-race Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge as well.
And according to scribbles I have with ARCA officials at the halfway point in this race, the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge is still yet to be decided. 28 Sheldon Creed holds a 30-point advantage over Zane Smith. Zane's been able to make up some points during this race. Again, the worst finish drops off. Chase Purdy is 40 points out of the lead, just 10 points or 2 positions on the track behind the number 41 of Zane Smith. And then we find the 27 of Travis Braden, still 55 points out of the lead, but not mathematically out of the championship in the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge, with Joe Graff sitting in 5th in the position. His worst finish after the one would drop off is 12th in Madison, so lots of things to be decided these last 100 laps in the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge.
And you should see Jim over there. He's been scribbling with his pencil and as a racer, figuring out all that math. I'm glad you're doing it and not me. Tom Hessert making his 2nd series start this year in the Chad Bryant number 22, and he's had some good success here at Lucas Oil Raceway in the past.
Yeah, he got the chance because Chase Briscoe, the original driver scheduled to run this car for his buddy Chad Bryant, was not able to return to the track, so Tom got the call. But he mentioned Lucas Oil Raceway. Top 10, man, I'm telling you, he's got 5 races here at Lucas Oil Raceway, all top 10 finishes. Finished 2nd here in 2012 with 3 top 5s. So that those numbers equate to the right guy to get that phone call to get in this number 22 machine.
The only thing missing from that? Absolutely, a victory here at Lucas Oil Raceway, and Tom Hessert is a 6-time winner in this series.
Again, great friends. He's raced with Chad Bryant Racing. He's with Venturini Motorsports, where he began this year. His only other start was at Daytona. Great run, top 10 for him. And Tom's just a great guy. Love the family. Love the fact that he's out here racing with the ARCA Racing Series. He spent 6 or 7 full-time seasons and never finished worse than 10th in points. When he won that race at Iowa in Cunningham Motorsports equipment, that was a huge, huge day at Iowa Speedway.
He's closing in on a milestone as well, just 14 starts shy of 200 for his career. So Tom Hessert is a guy that we would love to see back in this series full-time.
Showing that it didn't take long for the rust to get knocked off. He said, I don't know, guys, the first part of the race, I might not be a factor, but he has Chad Bryant on his pit box. They certainly have things clicking. They still have those 4 general tires sitting in the pit box for later in this race.
One spot outside the top 10 is Tom Hessert right now. And gosh, it almost looks like Christian Eckes is just cruising around this racetrack. That shot almost looked like we were under caution. That car is so easy to drive, being set up by Kevin Reed and the boys and that team at Venturini Motorsports.
Christian Eckes, again, in the number 15 machine, they have gotten together, and Kevin Reed has gotten his full confidence. And wherever Christian goes in this number 15 machine, Kevin Reed is on the pit box. And when they started the season at Salem with a victory, and they came back strong each and every time out, they only made a couple of stumbles throughout the year where they weren't in the field of the top 5 who could win this race category. That says a lot about how this team has advanced from 2017 to 2018. A lot of things have been redone in the shop. New people, Frank Kimmel now working in the fabrication and crew chief role in this team has really helped calm things out with some veteran leadership with Billy Venturini and Mark and the Reed guys doing a lot of work. Kevin Reed as the crew chief really managing the entire shop.
And you mentioned the Venturini team. We saw a shot of Natalie Decker. She's currently running in 12. Frank Kimmel is her crew chief, the 10-time series champion. So like you said, the addition, I think, of Frank Kimmel just really fit already into a good fold at Venturini Motorsports.
And Frank, halfway through the year, became the crew chief for Natalie Decker, who's shown some improvements as well. She's made a couple of pit stops already in this race in her number 25 machine. She's the only full-time driver for Venturini Motorsports. We talked about 10 different drivers. She's really picked up, I think, consistency throughout the season as well.
Hey, here's what's interesting, a little nugget for you. Natalie Decker, we talk about her while we're watching the battle for second on the racetrack. Natalie Decker has finished 10th in 2 consecutive races. She's just shy of that right now, going for her 3rd straight 10th place finish, or maybe a little bit better here tonight.
And again, that team's not afraid to make changes. She came down pit road as many times as Zane Smith, 3 times already in this race, so we'll see how that can play out to their favor. And Chandler Smith, I'm guessing right now, is wondering, what do I need to do as a driver with Billy Venturini on my pit box to get a hold of that white car and pass him? And the 15, his teammate ahead of him.
You know, Chandler Smith told me earlier today, they just haven't gotten the handle on this racetrack like others this year. And we say that, and he's running 3rd right now. He's having a great run, but we're used to Chandler Smith leading a ton of laps in a race. Right now, running in that 3rd spot. A battle a little bit further back right now. Carson Hocevar in the 35. There is Zane Smith in the 6th spot. Zane Smith trying to get into the top 5 once again here in ARCA.
Giving it some perspective, today is a one-day show. We came in, we practiced, we qualified, we raced, then we got rained on for the initial start of the race. So in this one-day format, there's not a lot of time to make a lot of changes. And Zane Smith, we're riding along with, and Chandler Smith both told me after practice, we're fighting in tight condition. We hope the track loosens up the setup in the evening conditions. So these guys have been both kind of worried about the tight conditions. The same can be said right now for Zane Smith, who's just said, my car is still battling tight here.
You know, there's such a difference from when we go on board with these guys. They look real smooth. And when we watch them coming off of turn number 2, it looks like these cars are just, you know, loading that weight and coming back and trying to take care of that horsepower. Some bumps right there coming off of turn number 2. These guys are really manhandling even with a smooth steering wheel. Zane Smith, 12 top 5 finishes so far this year. He would like to pick off another. And of course, there's been a little bit of a rivalry between he and Sheldon Creed on that same team at MDM Motorsports. The top 2 in points coming into this race. You know, Zane has those 4 victories. Even though Sheldon has the lead in the overall standings in the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge standings, Zane still one up on him in the win column.
And crew chief Marty Lindley for the number 41 La Paz Margarita Mix Toyota. They do not give up. Marty does not give up till the very end. And he told me today, you know what, if anywhere we can make some ground up is here at Lucas Oil Raceway, because Marty, as a racer, as a driver, he made his only NASCAR Xfinity start here. He's won a Pro Cup race here. He said also he made up 3 of 7 laps under green flag conditions in a Pro Cup race once. So in terms of getting the knowledge of how the race will change, Marty Lindley's notebook is paying off for Zane now. If they fought tight earlier, they're hoping the track frees up. We'll see how that plays out for them as they're riding now in a very good bunch, I would say, hoping for that pit stop. From now to the finish, anytime between now and the end, if there's a caution, I'm saying 4 tires will come on these race cars.
You're absolutely correct. And Zane, by the way, has said, you know what, if you can, give a shout out to La Paz Margarita Mix and Icon Vehicle Dynamics, because they have made this season possible for him. United Rentals on board the number 28 of Sheldon Creed. These sponsors that these teams have that we really try to spotlight here on MAV TV and the ARCA Racing Series are the only reason these guys are able to race at this high of level.
Case in point, Scott's is the sponsor on the hood of Carson Osavar. That's his uncle's company. I mean, that they're saying, hey, we're going to take the investment. KBR stands for Kathy Bursley Racing. They have an investment in this young man. There's a lot going on, and a lot of discussion in the pits today already. It was about 2019 already. Time to start thinking ahead as well.
Zane Smith told me, in fact, Jim, that he doesn't know what he's doing in 2019. Carson Hocevar hoping to run more ARCA races. He has moved up to the 4th spot, and now the teammates, Creed and Zane Smith, going at it.
And Sheldon Creed was just announced as a racer for GMS Racing in the Truck Series, running the last 4 races of 2018. So he's got his sights set on trying new things already this year.
Maybe a prelude of things to come for Sheldon Creed.
He's raced the Eldora Truck Race. He's raced the Xfinity Series on a couple of occasions, but that'll be a big test, I think, for where they may want to go next.
And I like the way that Sheldon Creed did it, honestly. The converted off-road racer. He was the 2014 Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series Pro Light champion, and then moving into late models, trying his hand at that, running some ARCA starts, some K&N starts. He really got the experience that he needed to make this transition.
And in winning 5 total off-road championships, the time to get into cars came because there was a conversation between his grandfather, Maurice Ortega, and Geely Johnson's dad, Gary Johnson. They were childhood friends on the dirt tracks of California. Guess what? Sheldon Creed got the number for Lauren Ranier and said, this is the guy you need to go to find out what you need to do next. And he went stock car racing with great success.
On board with Zane Smith, he has climbed into the top 5 here tonight. Can he make it any further? Christian Eckes has been on a rail. Welcome back to Lucas Oil Raceway for the Short Lunch 200 for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. I'm Bob Dillner, Jim Trado with us. Charles Kral will be on pit road interviewing everybody after the race. Christian Eckes, what else can we say about him? This car, this driver, this team has just crushed the competition so far tonight.
Other teams have made the adjustments and they've not worked. Eckes has just risen to the top and pulled away again to a lead here. Again, they still have those 4 tires left, but thinking back to Travis Braden, what he was able to do, he pitted before halfway for those last set of tires, and others that did not pit said, oh, there's another caution coming. We'll have one for sure by lap 120 or 130. It never came. Braden won that race going away. 2 other teams had that same strategy. They finished 2nd and 3rd in that race.
Well, let's paint you a scenario here as we look at the battle for 3rd on the racetrack between Hocevar and the 20 of Chandler Smith. But if we don't see another caution, a lot of people are going to be dancing around on some old tires.
And with what Eckes has been able to do and control that speed, roll in those corners so easily, if his handling goes away, I'm guessing others will as well, because they've been trying to fight harder to get to a glimpse of that number 15 well out of the windshield of Chandler Smith here off of turn 2.
Hocevar there and Chandler Smith putting Joe Graff Jr. down some more on this racetrack. Joe Graff Jr. with a kind of a new sponsor to ARCA on the side of his race car, Rural King, one of my favorite stores, kind of based in the Midwest, and nice to see new sponsors coming to the ARCA Racing Series.
This sponsor Big Time as well is involved with a company called Nutri-Chomps. That's on the 22 car. They're also sponsoring Chase Briscoe on the Xfinity Series side, so great to see that cohesion, and the live television coverage for these series brings that sponsor, brings that interest, and it's great to see those sponsors hopping on board with Chad Bryant Racing.
The JBL audio team for Christian Eckes putting Riley Herbst a lap down. That's not the night that Riley Herbst hoped to have here at Lucas Oil Raceway.
One thing to say about a finished top 10, he's in the top 10, but his pace is nowhere near what Eckes is putting forth here. So Eckes continues to lap his way up through the back half of the top 10 now.
How many will go a lap down here tonight? That's the big question, I think, honestly, right now. Christian Eckes, a torrid pace here tonight. We are under 65 laps to go. Sam Mayer in the 40, now inching closer to the top. Mayer trying to take over 6th. The overall points leader here in ARCA, Sheldon Creed, kind of fading back a little bit.
Creed's handling is going away, but Mayer also, I think, is trying to push it a bit. He wants to get to that veteran teammate and say, hey, I can run with you guys. I know you're my teammate. I've asked you a ton of questions. How can I make my car work? And Sheldon right now, his car's a bit off, and Mayer's starting to close in here in that white team car on the bottom of the number 40. Can he pinch him behind? Yes, he will.
Mayer underneath, but Joe Graff Jr. is there as well. This should be interesting heading into turn number 1. Creed wants to make it 3 wide. Is going to be wise not do that. Sam Mayer able to get underneath Sheldon Creed. Can he pull off the pass?
Great racing here down the backstretch. Talk about handling characteristics. Doesn't matter now. We got to use everything they have with the 28 machine to get ahead of the number 40 of Sam Mayer. It's a kind of a tight pit road. So as they think ahead, every position on the track matters all the time. But when it comes to making pit stops, if and when it happens, they want to be ahead of any car they possibly can muster. They might punish the tires for 2 or 3 laps, but Creed has proven time and again, give him a challenge, he'll be up to it, and I don't think he likes getting passed even on the freeway.
I love that General Tire onboard camera allowing us to see that battle with Sam Mayer there, and I think patience honestly paid off there for Sheldon Creed in that battle.
And it's good to see Sam Mayer trying. He's not just going to ride and say, I'm learning something. That shows me a lot of strength in that number 15 drivers, or the 15-year-old driver's ability in car number 40. Sam Mayer out of Flank in Wisconsin, again, racing at 35 or 36 races this year. Just a couple here in the ARCA Racing Series, but getting a lot of different experiences on a lot of different racetracks throughout the country.
Chandler Smith trying to weave his way through some slower traffic right now, currently in 5th with that Valvoline onboard camera. By the way, Tom Hessert, I just looked up at the ticker real quick. Hessert now in the top 10. You said he was going to get better as the race went on.
He'll need a pit stop, though. He'll be the next victim ahead of the number 15 of Christian Eckes in terms of staying on the lead lap. Eckes really has a good run going here up the backstretch. He's never varied his line once off of turn 2. Others may be seeking the line or dipping the corner or diamonding the entry, dive low, tip high, and come off the bottom low. He has had a perfect car to this point in the race, if you ask me.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to Brad Smith as well as we look at Christian Eckes leading this race. Brad is out of the race, scored 22nd, but Brad came into this race top 10 in the point standings, and for an independent racer like that, that is pretty darn good.
Chevy dually pickup truck and an open trailer is how he gets down the road to these races.
Here comes Sam Mayer back on the inside for a second time. A little wiggle there coming off the corner. Michael Self right behind this pair trying to get into the mix as well, but side by side for the 28 and the 40, but here comes Self. No way! He went 3 wide on the bottom side of the racetrack. I would have bet 100 times over Michael Self would not have made that pass.
And at that point in the race, why do it? Well, guess what? The 46 machine of Thad Moffitt actually had fresher tires. He came down the pit road just a few laps ago. So we'll see how those fresh tires play. He came down pit road 12 laps ago, so the 46 of Thad Moffitt able to make that turn down under. But wow, what a bold move by Self to get by both MDM teammates in one corner.
Another Days of Thunder reference for you. Tires, son, is what wins races. Well, I don't know about a race here tonight, but it certainly gained some spots for a couple of drivers, including Thad Moffitt in that 46.
Creed's car is just on handling. Sam Mayer respectful, not trying to muscle his teammate, trying to get the position on him. That opened the door on the bottom in the dark stuff for Michael Self. Wow, what a move.
Caution lights come on around this racetrack. Christian Eckes, the leader here. But the caution comes out once again to set up and kind of close this field up just a little bit.
I just saw at the corner of my eye Travis Braden touching the wall in turns 1 and 2 a lap ago. ARCA officials have said, let's check for debris. We did see the same thing you did, Jim. So we're under caution for debris here. 4th caution of the night.
If Purdy, Hocevar, Moffitt, and Smith are going to have any chance, maybe it's on this next restart. Don't go away.
The ARCA Racing Series, presented by Menards, is brought to you by Sioux Chief, America's manufacturer of plumbing, drainage, supply, and support products. Block It House Wrap. Don't just wrap it, block it. And by Power Stop, performance brake upgrades for just about anything you drive. Visit powerstop.com.
Here we go. Everybody coming down to pit road here. Almost everybody. Christian Eckes leads the brigade onto pit road here in the Shore Lunch 200 for the ARCA Racing Series at Lucas Oil Speedway. So Eckes coming on to take those 4 tires most likely. Chase Purdy was second. A 4-tire stop for him as well.
Yep, they're all taking 4. He's down in pit stall 11. He had to pass everybody else to get down to his pit stall. Eckes now, a little bit of damage they're looking at in the right rear fender well in that JBL.com Toyota.
Chandler Smith in the top 5. It'll be a 4-tire stop as well. Those 4 General tires going on that Craftsman number 20. Who will come off pit road first? A little stall there from Christian Eckes. He's going to lose a spot.
In pit road is 45 miles per hour. At this point in the race, it's not worth speeding to lose all that track position. He'll give up the lead to the number 8 of Chase Purdy.
Let's take a look at how they were scored at the line. A half a car length for Chase Purdy over Christian Eckes, and then another half a car length to Sheldon Creed.
And those tires are sitting in the pit box getting chilled. It's getting cooler by the minute, and it's a lot of damp moisture there on pit road. So good job by those teams to get him in and out and not a lot of wheel spin leaving.
You mentioned Christian Eckes and that big win at Springfield. Nobody expected that one at all here in the ARCA Racing Series. Let's show you how he got it done. No experience on the dirt, yet he went to the front of the field and beat several of the ARCA guys, but also some big-time dirt invaders as well.
And the restarts. He was magical on those as well. That blue car right there, Ryan Unzicker, races full-time in dirt late models throughout the country for a decade or plus. It was a challenge on the outside getting the loose stuff. Riley Herbst, one of the drivers that took a turn spinning on this racetrack. He was not alone when it came to getting up and out of the groove.
Look at this battle right here. Logan Seavey trying to get up through the field. Sheldon Creed has so much dirt experience as well, but neither of those guys could catch Christian Eckes. Surprised everybody. You should have seen him climbing out of the car in victory lane. He was in a state of disbelief after that victory on the dirt.
He said, I have no idea how I made up 3 seconds off in the pace from qualifying to race time, and then to do what I did. Don't ask me how I did it. I have no idea how I won that race.
Chase Purdy clearing out the carburetor here. Ready to go, green flag racing once again. Christian Eckes leads the field to the green. The race is into turn number 1.
One common factor from that day to this day, Bob, Kevin Reed, the crew chief, and how this car is prepared. On that dirt track, it was good enough to win. With a driver who did not have a lot of experience, you put him on a track he's so familiar with, back home on the short tracks, and Eckes is proving the number 15 team has been strong all year long. Up to second in the overall owner points in 2018. This win would be huge to get them closer to Sheldon Creed.
Venturini Motorsports, 1st and 5th on the racetrack. MDM Motorsports, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So the big teams looking pretty darn good here at Lucas Oil Raceway once again.
MDM Motorsports testing here, Venturini Motorsports testing here. Not a lot of other single car teams took the opportunity, and if they did, they're not performing as well as the teams we've talked about all season long, with the majority of the wins now in number their 28 machine of Sheldon Creed working underneath his teammate here. Wow. That takes a lot because they're inches apart here, and Creed wanted to kind of move him up, move that car up and get the nod to get the pass, and it took a long time. Purdy not able to give that up too easily.
Oh, they traded some paint, indeed, in the corners there. Look at Creed really wrestle that car.
I don't think he's happy unless he's a little bit on the loose side, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The way he races.
It's that dirt thing. Honestly, you come over from dirt, and, the interesting thing about Sheldon Creed is I remember talking to Bobby Gill, the veteran late model competitor that works for MDM Motorsports, as well as Mark McFarland, one of the principals of this team. And last year, they said Sheldon Creed just took a long time to learn or relearn a racetrack, whether it was his first time there or his second time there. But this year, such a change. He was able to get out on the racetrack and really adapt right away, and he's shown it by being this point leader with the 3 wins that he's had. But he's still wanting another victory before the season is out.
And he's conceded, I don't do well on short tracks, but just the equipment and my ability to come back to tracks I've been at before. The short track season really started back in April on a very cold night at Nashville Super Speedway. What did Sheldon do there? Finished 2nd. We look at Madison, Wisconsin, a short track that had given him some fits in the past. Finished 3rd there. 1 at Iowa Speedway. So he's overcome a lot of confidence, but Jeff Stankwitz, man, I'll tell you, he has got that driver equipment he can use and use well, as winning as many races as he has this year, and now proving how he can win. Not only just show the speed, yeah, that's the difference this year.
And listen, a lot of NASCAR team owners look at the ARCA Racing Series for that next star. Well, if you're looking at Sheldon Creed, not only has he been able to win 3 times this year, but that consistency, like you mentioned, is there. And that's a very strong point for moving him to the next levels. Christian Eckes still has a year or so before he's able to go full-time by virtue of that 18-year-old rule in NASCAR's Big 3 series. You cannot go full-time because you can't run on the super speedways. But if you look at Christian Eckes, he's another guy that the NASCAR ranks are looking at. Chandler Smith, boy, he has made an impact this year, and it's all because of what these NASCAR owners are seeing with their performances of these young guns in the ARCA Racing Series.
There will always be the pressure to get noticed, but look how rich and thick the stem is and the tree and the roots built by Toyota, and what they've been able to do is latch their name onto Haley Deegan in the West Series. A number of drivers that have gotten a chance to race here in Toyotas in the ARCA Racing Series with Venturini Motorsports. Looking how that is built, you still have to shine and say, yes, I'm ready for the next adventure. Chandler Smith, again, just 16 years of age, really get a chance to race in the Craftsman Camping World Truck Series with Craftsman on the board. Craftsman's across the board now and all the way up to the Cup level with Toyota at Joe Gibbs Racing. So that's another way to say, I can bring your brand forward.
And you mentioned Haley Deegan. She's a former competitor on the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series as well. And she's had a great season in the K&N West Circuit. But I understand that we may see her over here in ARCA at least for a handful, if not a handful of times next year as well, to continue that grooming process that you can get here in the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards.
This being the third partial season for our race leader, Christian Eckes, brings it all to 4. Get some laps here, get longer races, live pit stops, live television. That's a huge attraction for these young developmental drivers as early as age 14 to get a look, to get funding, to get right. For age 15 debuts, like we saw Sam Mayer this year at Iowa Speedway, right after he turned 15, finished top 10.
Closing in on 25 to go here. A nice, comfortable distance between first and second here. First is Christian Eckes. Second place, Sheldon Creed, the point leader. Chase Purdy, right there in the thick of things in the top 5 in the point standings, currently running third on the racetrack.
The way I have it, Chase Purdy has to win this race. Sheldon Creed has to have an issue, and so does Zane Smith, for Chase to have a chance to win the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge. So it really is a all or nothing for Chase Purdy at this point to win the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge.
He's been so consistent in the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge races. The only real blemish, and it really shouldn't be a blemish, is Elko, Minnesota. He was leading that race late. That car, burst into flames, and it was just a really tough outing for Chase Purdy because he thought that was going to be his chance to shine and go to victory lane here in ARCA.
Yeah, if you want to draw comparisons, as strong as we see Christian Eckes here in this race, that's as strong as the number 8 Purdy was on the 3/8 mile in Elko, Minnesota.
Riley Herbst, he struggled at times in the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge. He feels a little bit more comfortable on those intermediate tracks and the super speedways. 2 times a runner-up finisher this year for Riley Herbst in that Joe Gibbs Racing number 18.
And Riley's also a driver looking to do more racing next year in the ARCA Racing Series. He said the 18 car will be in an owner's championship situation, but it may not be full-time with Riley behind the wheel. He may be splitting time with now 16-year-old Ty Gibbs, the grandson of Coach Joe Gibbs at Joe Gibbs Racing.
And Ty has tested an ARCA car several times this year in private tests. I know he went to Nashville at one point, tested there. So it'd be nice to see Ty Gibbs, who has won late model stock car events this year, come over here to the big heavier stock cars to further his development.
And Eckes, as we mentioned earlier, has 2 more NASCAR Truck Series races to go this season. Looking forward to seeing how he progresses. So if you're watching Christian Eckes for the first time, we hope he gave us some information. So when you see him race on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, you'll know why this kid is so good. He's so good here in the ARCA Racing Series as he learns these racetracks.
Closing in on the end of the Shore Lunch 200 for the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. Lucas Oil Raceway has not disappointed. Christian Eckes dominant so far, but some good battles a little bit further back in the field. This is 3rd through 5th. All teenagers right here. Zane Smith in that Icon Vehicle Dynamics number 41, the Craftsman number 20 for Chandler Smith. And then right behind that, is the guy that has only a handful of starts this year, 3 as a matter of fact, Carson Hocevar in that 35.
Just an impressive cast. This late in the race, you think, okay, the kid had speed for a lap, or 10 or 20. Watch him get in traffic. What does he do? Chandler Smith proved he's got the talent and the muster. He has had the speed every opportunity he's had. The number 40 owner, Zane Smith, what has he done this year? Second in points, and he's going to lock up, I believe, the Scott Rookie Challenge with the condition of the conduct clause come banquet time. But his performance really tonight has solidified that award as well.
Zane Smith is a talented kid from the West Coast, Huntington Beach, California. We call him the California kid, but he's shown us he can drive a car. He can talk the talk as well, whether he's going at it with somebody or whether he's, trying to promote a sponsor. He's very talented in all different facets of his approach. The guy behind them, Carson Hocevar, I'm looking forward to him in 2019, hopefully running maybe 5 to 8 shows or so in the ARCA Racing Series, because he's a guy that I've had my eye on last year, for the past couple of years, as a matter of fact. 3 times a winner last year in Pro Late Models under the sanction of the Champion Racing Association. Travis Braden here, top 5 in the point standings, has not had the night he has wanted, but he is already committed to coming back and running for the championship next year.
You talk about Hocevar, you talk about Smith, you talk about Eckes. They've all done this effort of trying to race the Snowball Derby, and Zane Smith finished second to Chase Elliott in the Snowball Derby. He also won the World Series Asphalt in New Smyrna in a super late. That's where Hocevar is progressing. So this crossover is helping both those drivers. Zane Smith, if he wants to go back super late racing, what's he going to do? He's going to talk to Hocevar, right? Hocevar is on the path of what Zane has already accomplished and what Eckes is doing. This is a great way to kind of test each other and get those relationships so we can see close, trusting racing on the racetrack, because in the ARCA Racing Series, 6, 7, 8 different racers in a given race are the same ones every race, and we have different drivers coming and going in the series, so that trust and the relationships hopefully will go on for many years as they work here together at age 15 on through the ARCA Racing Series.
Less than 10 to go for Christian Eckes. We just saw him go by the 77 for the Chad Bryant Racing Machine of Joe Graff Jr. That win for Joe Graff at Berlin. He too is a guy that plans to come back and contend for the title. And man, what a difference a season makes, because when Joe Graff Jr. came on, I honestly asked Chad Bryant, I said, what do you think about Joe Graff? He says, well, he's got a lot of potential, but he's got a lot to prove. And that was at Nashville early on in the year. Well, he really poured it on, and Joe Graff Jr. has impressed a lot of people.
It was supposed to be a 6-race deal with that team, and Chad Bryant Racing buying the assets and keeping the employees on staff from Cunningham Motorsports, who only had 7 Rookies of the Year and won 40 races, but they didn't have the full funding for a full season. So having Joe Graff really help reestablish, now they've got 1 full team, maybe 2 full teams next year already in the works.
MDM Motorsports trying to put up their program together for next year. Zane Smith having a decent run here, but knowing how competitive Zane is, he's not going to be happy with this performance here tonight.
He wanted to win this race. He wanted to prove how strong he was on short tracks all year long. He talked about how tight the car was after that last pit stop. I happened to glean across his radio. He's now fighting a very loose condition. They went too far.
You talk about a tight battle on the racetrack. That was it right there. Great shot from our onboard camera. Carson Hocevar able to go 3 wide with a slower car and get by Zane Smith for the position on the racetrack.
Hocevar, so impressive, that young man on the pole at Berlin Raceway, his home track, but then backing it up with a great run here shows a lot of potential no matter where the short tracks take the series next year. And Hocevar hopefully can be, 5 to 8 races? Let's get some funding. Let's get that kid in some more runs.
He could battle for the Sioux Chief Short Track Challenge. He is that talented, I believe. The kid out of Michigan, and he set the world on end a couple of years ago by winning in a NASCAR Whelen All-American Series race at Berlin. He was just 13 years old. That was not allowed. That was against the rule that NASCAR set forth, and he basically changed that whole system by virtue of that win at 13 years old.
And he proved his muster at that racetrack by winning the Super Late Championship at Berlin Raceway just last year at age 14.
This kid changed a lot as well. A couple of years ago, winning the Snowball Derby at Five Flags Speedway. Nobody expected him to do so. He's won the Myrtle Beach 400, the Thanksgiving Classic at Southern National Motorsports Park in North Carolina. This kid really proved himself, and it continued here in ARCA, now hoping for his 3rd series victory.
And what we see here is the consistency of this team. Venturini Motorsports has now met the challenge of MDM, if you ask me, when it comes to who has the better stuff. That was the question we've answered all season long, with those teams sharing the victories, sharing some moments, you would say, that weren't so special, but they respect each other highly. And Eckes is proving here at this racetrack with so many historical wins by different drivers. He belongs in this series. He'll belong in any series he gets funded to go race in.
Sheldon Creed, though, has nothing to be disappointed about. He fell out of the top 5, battled back, currently running in second, this time by 1 lap to go for Christian Eckes.
Into turn 1 like it's lap 5 on fresh tires, man. This car has not been wrong at all tonight. He was as far back as 6th with a long first pit stop to make an adjustment in the right rear suspension. That paid off. The 4-tire stop, came out second, lost the lead for just a bit, passed Chase Purdy back, and has not looked back, Bob.
Christian Eckes makes it look easy. Now a hat trick of wins this season for that young driver out of Middletown, New York.
Great run by the team. We see Kathy Venturini, the matriarch of the team, up on the pit box of the 15, helping celebrate with the crew. Great effort by Kevin Reed. Man, 6 wins on this season with 3 different drivers.
He's going to be dancing with those JBL headsets on here tonight to the sweet sounds of victory at Lucas Oil Raceway.
The ARCA Racing Series, presented by Menards, has been brought to you by General Tire. Anywhere is possible. Protect Plus, official licensee for DuPont air filtration products. And by Lucas Oil. Made in America, sold to the world.
The Sioux Chief Short Track